Hello and welcome to another edition of Strategic Gaming. As always, I'm your friendly neighborhood nerd king, Mac Taylor. We're going to talk about Phase 3 and 4 of Survivor Vanuatu. So last time, Sarge had just got booted. Very sad. So sad. And now Chris basically trying to, play the sympathy card here, like, I am alone, I'm by myself, you could use me because I don't have anywhere to go. Which is very smart. He's very deemed. He could be super pissed and throw a tantrum, but he's not. He's going to try to stay calm and see if he can find an opening. And Scout, she wants to make a deal with the guys. She's not happy that she's kind of fallen to the bottom of the Amy, Leanne, Julie alliance, and she would like to make a move. I'm going to get a team obstacle reward for this big tribe festival kind of deal. And it's Julie, Twyla, Scout, and Leanne versus Eliza, Chris, Chad, and Amy. Eliza, Chris, Chad, and Amy winning the reward. And then it rains balls. And the other team, they're very bitter about the reward. But Scout takes this moment, talks to Twyla about putting the plan in motion to flip on the other girls. And we also get this little scene where Chad gets super drunk at the reward, and Chris is carrying him around, and he's all goofy. We don't get a whole lot of Chad stuff in the show. Like, Chad very much a non-entity. He's not a purple edit because, you do know him because of the leg and because he's with Chris and all that stuff. But he's not very much, he's not that entertaining. But this was a fun moment for him. And we get an endurance immunity. The elimination order is Julie, Chris, Scout, Amy, Eliza, and Leanne. Comes down to Chad and Twyla. Twyla wins immunity. Chad needed that, but thank God for Chris, he didn't get it. And Amy immediately hears about this flip about to happen, and she swats that shit down. She's like, you're not flipping on me. The girls stick together. All right? We're not going to let these men win this game. No. No flip. Nada. And everyone's like, okay, sorry, Amy. And Amy's like, gotta get Chad out. He's a threat. He almost won that immunity. How dare he? It's Twyla and Scout. They can't get on the same page. And because of that, by a vote of 6-2, Chad going to be the one going out here. Final thoughts on Chad. Like I said, he kind of rode Chris and Sarge. Really wasn't much of a power player. And, even if the guys went to the 5 together, he probably would have been out after maybe Rory. So, he just 8-4. It's the same pay. Chad really wasn't much to talk about here. Got screwed being on the wrong end of the vote, but nevertheless, I don't think he was ever going to be a big player to begin with. Chris now trying to throw everyone under the bus. Like, he's like, I gotta figure out who I can roll over to get to the next round, because I am the last guy against 6 women, and this is not a good spot. And there's paranoia everywhere. Everybody's like, what's gonna happen? What if Chris wins immunity? Blah, blah, blah. Like, everyone's just back and forth here. And so we get a memory game where they were going to get a webcam chat with their loved one. And then they reveal, oh, wait a second, your loved ones are here. And they're like, oh my gosh. Eliza wins reward. Her mom gets to come back to camp. And now Scout trying to figure out a way to save herself. Because Scout basically tries to get some info about where she's at in the women's 6. And she's like 6 or 5. Like, her and Twyla are the bottom. And that angers her very much because she feels like she should be 3. All Scout really wants is 3rd place. And, they don't want to give it to her. They don't even want to lie to her. Like, they're just like, yeah, flat out, no. No, you're not, no. Wow, just be happy you got this far. And it's like, just lie to her. Just tell her, yeah, Scout, you're third. And then she'd be happy and wouldn't try to flip on you. Really bad gameplay there by the other girls. And Leanne, she's hammering Twyla. She's like, got to get her out, And Leanne and Amy are just super rude. They're super cocky. They think they're the final two. They think they've won this game. And it's very much not the case. 7 is not the time to be cashing your check. And Chris knows he needs immunity. And they're going to be playing immunity with their loved ones. Chris tells his fiance, I need this. Like, we need to get this. So he's screaming like, come on, let's go. We need this win. Come on. And meanwhile, Leanne, she's like telling her loved one, go ahead and sit down. We don't need this one. You just take it easy. Don't even worry about it. We're good. I ain't going nowhere. Meanwhile, Chris is like, please, I don't want to go home next. Please, honey, I love you, but get here. And you see Chris fighting for his life, and Leanne is like, yeah, whatever. I'll try next time. It's again, really angering. And Amy ends up winning the immunity. Even further solidifying how much of a threat she is. And the girls talk Eliza. Like, maybe then they could take out Eliza. And Amy's like, well, I can't fight you. If you want to take out Eliza, then Chris, that's okay. Yeah, my hands are tied. And Twyla goes up to Chris. And she's like, who is the most important person in this flip? And he's like, you. She's like, no. Scout? No. Who? Eliza. Instead of getting Eliza out, why don't we pull her in and flip on the girls? That makes us 4, them 3, and we get it. And Chris is like, oh, my God, you're so right. And I think this is Twyla's best move she ever makes. And so Chris immediately goes up to Eliza like, hey, this is what we want to do. I want you to make this flip happen. And so by a vote of 4-3, and Leanne even says, I'm good. I'm not going home. I am totally safe. And by a vote of 4-3, Leanne voted out, the 3 votes being for Eliza. And Leanne's like, what? And Amy's like, what? Like, Amy spends all of most tribals with this smug smile on her face. Jeff's like, Amy, did you think you were ever going to make it this far? And she's like, yeah, I knew I was going to make it this far. And they're telling Jeff, like, oh, we're so good at Survivor, and, we are safe. And as soon as Leanne's name is on a parchment, she's like, what? And that smug smile just goes right off of her face. And then as soon as Leanne gets to go see her torch snuffed, she's like, oh, man. And Amy's just like, oh, fuck. I got played. And it is beautiful television. I think it is, with the John Carroll, with the Dina, Alex, Roger of the Amazon, like, this is top tier Blindside stuff. It was gorgeous, this Blindside. And Amy is pissed. She goes in the next episode, she's like, Twyla, how could you flip on the girls? Chris is in a good spot now because of you. And we get the car curse challenge. It's an underwater obstacle course. Eliza wins, so Eliza's pulling out these rewards. She takes Amy and Chris. And Amy is really trying to work Eliza. She really wants to, get Eliza back on board with her. While Twyla and Scout, they talk about Eliza and Amy and their threat levels. Eliza's way more annoying, but Amy is, she's a big baddie. And Amy suggests, Eliza, you should have just went home. Like, you screwed over Leanne. Leanne trusted you, and you took her out. And Eliza's like, I'm so sorry. I should have let myself be voted out. Oh, I'm so selfish. And I'm like, what? It's a game for $1 million, and you're apologizing to Amy for not letting her play you? Are you insane? It was crazy. Like, Amy is so good that she is making someone feel bad that they didn't just lay down and die. And then she's like, well, we should just target Scout. And Eliza's like, well, I don't like Scout, so that is a great plan. It's like, kudos, Amy. You just worked her like Play-Doh. And then we get a shuffleboard immunity. And basically, it comes down to Amy and Chris wins immunity. And he didn't want to win the immunity. He wanted to sit back, not be a threat. But you can't let Amy win this, because then what do? So he had to do this. He had to make sure Amy is not safe. And Eliza kind of feels out of place. And her and Julie, they don't want to, they not want to take Amy out. But nevertheless, by a vote of 4-2, Amy voted out. Probably the best strategic person in Survivor Vanuatu and the biggest villain, taken out here in 6th place. And at Tribal, Twyla had sworn on her son to go with Amy, and she didn't. And she's like, hey, I just said what I had to do to get ahead in the game. And Amy's like, how dare you swear on your son? You should feel like shit. And Twyla's like, you know what? I said it. I swore on him, and it was bad of me, and I shouldn't have done it, but whatever. It's a game, and I'm so sick of everyone being so fucking petty. And, I felt her frustration, but this blow-up does not make her look good at all. And Julie really looking for an opening. She's like, I need to try to find a way to get Chris and Eliza on my side. We could take out Scout and Twyla. Now I'm in the final 3 and things are looking good. Because if I get to the end, I got Amy's vote, I got Leanne's vote, I got I got the girls. And we get a past challenge reward for this volcano camping trip, which is awesome. Julie wins the reward. She takes Chris, which is kind of fitting because they have become super close. And she really wants to try to win Chris over to go with her and Eliza to take out, Twyla or Scout. And this is the kind of reward that I would want. I think this is the reward that encapsulates the season. Like in Marquesas, they had that Marquesian Festival reward. Or in Australia, they had the horseback camping reward. In Africa, they had the going to the village, seeing all the kids and things reward. There's a reward each season. That's just a once in a lifetime thing. You'll never, when are they ever gonna be able to go camping next to a volcano that's spurting lava, and they get this beautiful view? This is gorgeous, and you'll never see this kind of thing again. If I'm ever on Survivor, this is the kind of reward I want, because this thing is it's breathtaking. Even seeing it on TV is awesome. So Chris, he really is considering this option to go with Julie and Eliza. But I think going with Twyla and Scout is much better because Julie does have a lot of votes if she gets to the end. Eliza doesn't. She really did annoy people and was really wishy-washy. But Twyla and Scout are a much easier beat than Eliza and Julie. And Eliza and Twyla, they end up getting in a petty little fight about bananas. And Chris and Eliza both kind of weighing the options about, what's going to happen with the immunity. And we get a question memory immunity, and Eliza wins immunity. So Eliza really has kind of set herself up as a physical threat. And Chris really is the swing vote. Eliza and Julie are going to vote together. Twyla and Scout are going to vote together. And Twyla overhears Chris and Eliza talking, confronts them, and Chris is like, no, I was just, listening to her plead her case. I haven't made up my mind. And Eliza's like, whoa, hey, wait a second, Chris, it ends up being a big blowout. And by a vote of 3-2, Julie is gone, and Julie is very upset because, Chris is supposed to be her brother, and he turned his back on her, and she's very sad, crying. And really, I think this was the right move here because Julie is the biggest jury threat. She's going to be the one that probably wins if she goes to the end, and she's capable of winning competitions. So, I do agree that to go with Twyla and Scout, Scout's never going to win anything, and Twyla is not liked by the jury. So I understand completely where Chris was coming from with this. And with that, we end phase 3. We're going to go right into phase 4, the final 4 of Eliza, Scout, Twyla, and Chris. Who would have thought this would be the final 4? The guy who couldn't get across the balance beam, the woman with a implanted knee, the construction lady who argued with everyone, and the young girl who pissed everybody off with her nonstop talking are the final 4 of Survivor Vanuatu. And Chris, he's really trying to calm Twyla and Eliza. He really doesn't want any conflict. He wants the endgame to settle down. And we get this cool vertical maze immunity. It's a really cool little thing that to go up and around, and it's really cool to watch. Chris wins immunity. And Chris is like, all right, what's my final 3 that gives me the best options? Do I take Scout and Twyla? Do I take, do I try to go to a tie to try to get Eliza? And then also, he's talking to Scout about, hey, Twyla, she really just played kind of a rough game, trying to basically get Scout to take him to the final 2 if she wins, really trying to make himself a guaranteed final 2 lock. So Chris, even though he's in a winning position, never gets cocky and never stops playing Survivor. There's been a lot of points in this season where he could have given up, and he didn't. And I think that is really a really solid game he's playing. He's never too cocky, he's never arrogant, and he's never going to stop working it. And by a vote of 3-1, Eliza voted out. I mean, really, I thought she had no game in her. I thought she was going to be terrible. And she was not great with strategy. She was easily manipulated. But she was good at competitions, and she was one hell of a TV character. And I totally can see why they brought her back, because she is a trip, man. So I can't wait to see her on Fans vs. Favorites. But she's gone, and another kind of questionable jury member. So we get Fallen Comrades, and the offering to Roy Mata, the Vanuatuan legend. And the last immunity challenge is they have to hold a bow, draw back a bow and arrow, and hold it, and when your arrow breaks the paper, you're out. And that's hard, just to hold back a bow. It takes a lot of arm strength. It comes down to Twyla and Chris. Chris winning immunity again. Chris just beasting through the end game here. And he's starting to distrust Twyla. He said, did Twyla, was Twyla immediately going to take you to the final 2? And she's like, no, I actually think that Twyla is going to take you. And so he's like, oh, okay. Because Chris, it had Scouts been like, oh yeah, she was going to take me, he would have taken Scout because he was pissed that Twyla would backstab him. Twyla didn't, but Scout had the opportunity to put herself in the final 2 here and doesn't. And I think that is so stupid. So Chris takes that as being like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. So Chris, he takes out Scout, takes Twyla to the final 2. Final thoughts on Scout. She should not have been in the final 3. Like, should have been the first boot. I think in most seasons she is, but she ended up in this matriarch role and then just someone that people were just keeping around because there were bigger fish to fry. And then the one point in the game, she has to try to get herself in the final 2 to do something that wasn't, just someone else's move that she helped out with. She flubs it. So I think Scout she's a trippy character, but she is a terrible Survivor player. So, really was glad she didn't end up in the final 2. And, Chris and Twyla both are, like, really not looking forward to the final tribal. They know they're both going to get hammered. And Chris really hoping to bank on Twyla's attitude. Like, Twyla only knows how to be Twyla. She's very opinionated and very vocal, and he's hoping that if he just stays cool, calm, and collected, and she blows her gasket at Tribal, that's game for him. And he even tries to get her to be like, he tells like, hey, I'm just going to speak my mind. I ain't going to let these people bully me. And she's like, yeah, me neither. And he's like, yeah. Like, he's just riling her up to send her into this thing. And then they get on the hammock and it breaks, and then they start laughing because, like, oh God, is this an omen of what tonight's going to be? And they get the jury questions. And Sarge says, Chris, I'm not going to vote for you. But since you don't have my vote, are we still friends? Are we still going to be at the races together, or is the vote the only thing that mattered? Chris is like, dude, I don't give a damn about your vote. Of course we're going to be friends. Of course we're going to be at the races together drinking beers like we said. Man, like, Sarge, you're my boy. And Sarge liked that answer. And then he berates Twyla about trouncing on her son, and Twyla feels like shit. And Chad basically says, has the game changed you in any way? Kind of a lame question. Leanne, again, just hammering about the son's life promise. And Amy, I felt like this was such an arrogant question. What do you two have that I don't that got you to the final 2? And what that is humbleness, I think, first of all. Because even Amy, as she comes to answer a question, she holds out her hands and has 2 people, like, pick her up and over. Like, she's such a queen, and it annoys the fuck out of me. So yeah, what they have that you don't is probably going to be $1 million. And also, they were able to keep their mouth shut and be humble. And Julie just basically like, what, Chris, why did you play me? And he's like, hey, you are like a sister to me. Your vote was the hardest vote I had to do. And I really do genuinely apologize for upsetting you. Eliza asks for an apology from Chris. Chris gives it to her. And Scout basically is like, hey, my vote is going, where it's going. But thank you for taking me to the 3. Typical Scout. She just wanted 3. Chris basically his closing argument's like, I was one man against 6 women, and I'm here. I definitely played the hell out of this game, and I think I deserve to win. Twyla said I was goal-oriented, and, I was willing to play this game, and I did it. And, the vote comes out 5-2. Chris, the winner of Survivor Vanuatu, which was very exciting for me. I was very much rooting for Chris because he was such an underdog and such a good player. Twyla played well, but she really could not manage her temper. She did get Amy's vote because Amy is really, I think Amy was never going to vote for a guy in the end. I think she was always going to vote for a girl in the end. Because she was in the girls' alliance and the girls' tribe, and it doesn't solidify her legacy if a man wins. And then Scout was very close with Twyla. She, of course, was going to vote for Twyla because that was like her final 2. Everybody else voted for Chris. Obviously, Chad and Sarge were going to. They really only had bonds with them. And Julie really did appreciate Chris's statements. They were true. She took them as truth, and she voted for him because of their bond. Eliza thought he was genuinely apologizing, and again, just thought he played a better game. And Leanne even votes for Chris because, I mean, Chris got the flip. You know, Chris and Twyla both were the cause of her being out, but she's like, Chris, you made it all the way to the end as the only guy, so you deserve it. And, nothing against Twyla. She just couldn't keep her cool. Chris was very good at keeping his cool. He always had his back against the wall. Once the merge happened, his back, he kind of ran the first half of the game. He made a couple of mistakes, but overall, he played very well and was able to do it in a very collected manner. He never stopped plotting, scheming, or talking. He never let things slip through his fingers, and he was never arrogant. And I am kind of sad that we never get another Chris season, because I think he would do well in another season, because I don't think anyone remembers Vanuatu, and I think he would end up doing rather well again. And as a season of a whole, this one was dominated by the gender roles, whereas Amazon, like I said, ended up just being about strategy and less about the gender roles, which is why I like it more. But I did like it more than All Stars because the jury did respect Chris in the end for doing what he had to do. And they were bitter with Twyla, but it could have been a hell of a lot worse. All in all, I think this was a very fun season, a very good season, and definitely check it out if you can. Stay tuned next time. We're going to, come to a close for the first generation Survivor as we cover the 10th season Survivor Palau. See you then next time. Stay nerdy. I'm Mac Taylor.